Welcome back to the channel, everybody. Today I've got a very special guest with me.
What's going on, Crypto Coffee?
He needs no introduction, and we're doing it a little bit different today. We actually have real people in the flesh just to prove to you that we're not a bunch of bots.
No, we're not.
Not like you needed to be proved, but
yeah, I mean, Vegas was pretty much proof of it, right?
Yeah, Vegas was incredible. And we're going to make this quick. We're just going to cover our quick thoughts on everything that's going on in the,
crypto
lately
space, like where we think this is going. I mean, we're at like a key moment where we can either be facing like 50% downside on some of the larger cryptos, or we're about ready to bounce and turn around and start to make higher lows. So it's a key moment in the crypto cycle. You know, it's coming to the mid to end of the bear market, and it's time to start focusing your efforts on accumulating large bags over the long term. So we're just coming in to kind of give our take on what we think crypto could do short term into the medium term.
Yeah. And I guess like from what you're seeing, everybody wants to know, is the bottom in?
Yeah.
I mean, are we going to get 1 penny hex? Are we going to have to? It's 3 cents.
I think a good way to look at 1 penny hex is to base it off of what Bitcoin and Ethereum ultimately are going to do, because right now they're trading counter trend to some of the larger legacy markets. If that trend continues and Bitcoin and Ethereum do truly put in bottoms that are coming in on and have been coming in on indicators for over 90 days now, then that ultimately would mean that hex, the best chance you have on a 1 cent hex is on a wick. And so when you're talking about that short amount of a time frame, are you willing to risk so many X's of upside for maybe like a double to the downside? Yeah, that's the way that we're looking at this market now.
And here's some interesting takes that I think you're pretty much an expert in when it comes to liquidity on hex, and not a lot of people know this. So maybe you can give a quick synopsis of what does a liquidity chart look like? What does it mean?
Yeah.
And how do you read that? Let me pull up a chart right here for anybody just watching at home. First of all, let's say hey to everybody. UFO to go. What's up? Not by the Gulf Stream, but good guess. Synthwave Symphony. Let's fucking go. Nice. Boiler Crypto Dad. David James. My Online Ghost. What's up? And Hex Farmer. How you doing?
What's going on, everybody? I see some names I recognize in there.
Yeah. So we've got, a real human face-to-face chat. I know, right? Don't be scared, everybody.
It's good for you guys. It's good for us. I mean, we like hanging out too. So, I mean, Crypto Coffee invited me out to Chicago to see his beautiful place and hang out and talk crypto and talk networking and talk about the larger, picture what we're seeing. And that's pretty exciting to me. Like, it's an opportunity that I will not waste.
Exactly.
So I appreciate it. And yeah, I mean, when it comes to liquidity.
So let me pull up a chart for the people at home watching. Uniswap.info. This is the Hex USDC pair on Uniswap. And you can see right here, what we're sitting at right now is obviously 32 cent Hex. And
3.2 cents, 3.22 cents is where we're sitting, just short of a bid wall, or a sell wall. But effectively what that means is when we're using this level of liquidity in here, this is like an accumulation range where whales can trade up and down the price between roughly 3.2 cents to 3.67 cents roughly. And that's like a good accumulation zone for whales. And then people that have been in the system for maybe a couple of years that are maybe eager to sell, they would be not so eager to sell past roughly 3 cents because of the amount of slippage and loss that they would take doing so. Because there's only like $7,000 of liquidity for every fraction of a penny. So like what you'd effectively be doing is moving price so hard against yourself that it would just not be like a very smart way to go about exiting a position. Most of these people that have sold or are selling are forced sellers, and they're coming to the close. And those who have sold up high are more in the bid range. They're thinking more long term, and that this is bottoming price action.
So for people that are new to this chart, it's almost a reversal. I know you're used to seeing like higher prices to the right, lower prices to the left. Every time we're on the left side of the chart, these are higher prices in US dollar terms, because it's the Hex versus US dollar chart. It's Hex over USDC divided by USDC.
Yeah,
it's just a ratio. So on the other end of the spectrum, as we go up to the right, you see lower prices. And it appears that there's this big gap here. It appears like that. But one thing to note is that this giant gap does not account for limit orders that are set on the 0x order book, which is actually hosted off chain. So you're not going to see those orders, but there could be a bunch of people ready and willing to buy the dip anywhere between 3 cents and 1 penny.
Yeah.
So this is a weird range where you really can't predict it. But I know a lot of you guys have limit orders, and the fact that so many people do almost leads me to believe that once everyone's thinking a certain way, that's when it's time for the reversal.
On top of that, we have all of the liquidity structured out here. And the reason why market makers put liquidity anywhere is because they want to make fees. So people aren't going to put their liquidity where they know there's no money to be made. So when you look out here and you see that there's not a lot of liquidity out here, there's not really that many people thinking there's a lot of money to be made out here as far as like a trading range.
Yeah.
Whereas from 3 to 5 cents roughly, I mean, you're looking at, a decent amount of chunk of trading range. I mean, concentrated liquidity between 3.7 cents and roughly 3 cents, where there's a lot of money being made on the trading up and down of this range. And you can see that in the price chart itself, how most of the trading lately has been between that 3 and 5 cent levels. So this is more of a support band where people are willing to trade the coin.
Yeah. And in other words, like if you're a liquidity provider, you want to have your liquidity range set where you think people are going to be trading. People wouldn't have their liquidity this high if they didn't think people were going to be trading this high in the future. And although it might look like for a newbie, right, they might think this is actually bearish, but in fact, it's one of the most bullish things that we're seeing right now, meaning that liquidity providers aren't stupid. They make money on fees. They make money by guessing where they think the trading range should be. So because they're guessing that the range should be somewhere between 3 cents and 5 cents, well, we're a whole lot closer to 3 cents than 5, aren't we? So they're not guessing that it's going to go much below 3. That's the reading that Axis is giving you that not a lot of people might get if they're looking at a liquidity chart for the first time.
Right. I mean, a lot of people might think fear because we're approaching this huge cliff where there is no liquidity and the price can move downwards rapidly. But again, if this event were to occur, you'd be seeing it largely across Bitcoin and Ethereum and other markets. So it wouldn't be something that would be directed by the HEX market. It'd be something that's directed by the larger markets and forced selling. So yeah, that's a little bit of a deep dive on just this basic HEX USDC liquidity pair, kind of the liquidity setup and strategies that people are going to be trying to play during the short term, where a lot of the trading has been and will continue to happen between this 3 to 5 cent range. If you see starts of breakdowns on the larger timeframes on Bitcoin and Ethereum, you can expect HEX to potentially follow. But as we all know, HEX likes to decorrelate from the larger market, and it's never a for sure bet because all the trading happens on chain. One more thing I will say is that HEX traded $6 billion of liquidity over the last year on a year-over-year basis. And what that means to me is that at least if 10% of that was real US dollar trading and liquidity pulling from the system, people pulled out $600 million of liquidity from HEX over the last year. Wow. Which is a huge fucking market. And I'm super excited about that.
Yeah, it's pretty bullish, man. It's pretty bullish. Let's see if everyone's okay in the chat. Last time I checked, my sound was garbage and everyone was complaining. So way too much info. LFG. Richard Skozak. Hey, what's up? Best people in crypto. Thanks, bro. Stop it, you. Crypto Gains Club. Hey, Candace, what's going on? Hey, long time no see. Sure. MJ Money. Gentlemen. What's cracking, my dudes? Crypto Luck Box. HEX is the GOAT. Thoughts on HEXW? Let's talk about HEXW. But first, before we go to HEXW, let's just quickly cover some of your thoughts on Hedron because we're already on this liquidity topic. And I know one of the most interesting things about Hedron is that its primary liquidity pair is bonded to HEX. And it's been a prime case study almost in how liquidity bonding directly affects the price overall and how one thing going up can allow the other thing to get dragged up along with it. And you're probably best to explain that because you have your eyeballs in this all day, every day.
I mean, let's pull up the HEX Hedron liquidity pair.
Let's do that right now.
We'll talk about the last month and a half of price action on Hedron.
So Hedron right here. Let's pull up the coin first. If you guys are looking at the screen, hopefully you're not just listening, but if you can glance at the screen really quick, you could see that there's a reason that the number one liquidity pair in Hedron is not US dollar coin. It is in fact HEX. I mean, they're pretty equally weighted, but there's an unusually large amount of HEX allocated to the HEX Hedron pair, $3 million. Okay. Whereas slightly less than 3 million is allocated to the Hedron USDC pair. Why? Because you want these things to rise and fall in tandem with each other. So
yeah, I mean, I can take this in so many cool directions to expand on what Crypto Coffee just said.
So when I was not expecting, by the way.
So when you look at, so there's a whole theory behind why PLSD is being traded against Hedron.
They're trying to hitch a ride.
I mean, you could say that. I mean, it's okay. I mean, he's hitching a ride on HEX and Hedron. So let's go. Let's go, baby. We'll take it all to the moon.
Yeah.
HEX is a powerful beast and it will not stop for anybody. So this is the thing that Crypto and Coffee and I will come to at the end, the conclusion about where the money will end. But so, coming back to Hedron a little bit, you can see in the last 24 hours, there was, according to this, there was no volume traded on the $3 million TVL locked hexahedron pair, but all of the volume is actually happening on the USDC pair.
Wow.
So there's
$0, really.
So there's less money in technically less money in the Hedron USDC pair. But if you've been following this trade for a few months, over a month or two now, there's been this liquidity has changed. This liquidity setup has changed 10 times in a major way. And a lot of what we do in Silver the Antidote in my private Discord room is talking about these liquidity changes and what they mean for the price chart. So, I mean, like it's similarly to what HEX is doing against the US dollar. It's in a fat liquidity block here where it's being traded back and forth, creating some support. And ultimately, is it going to break down or break up? That's stuff we talk about privately.
Bell-shaped curve, honestly. And I'm honestly shocked that there's $0 of volume. Is it a glitch on Uniswap, or is there literally nobody trading?
If we went to the DEX screener chart, we could see for sure. Let's see here. $0 of volume. Here's the thing that's interesting is like this is the hexahedron liquidity pair.
Yeah.
And hexahedron pair was most used on a daily to get through the OA liquidity wall here,
right?
Because people were capitulating hex into hedron.
Let me try to explain the OA liquidity wall. Basically, when let's say every hex OG was given a bunch of hedron for free, right? A lot of people thought this was a bad thing, and ended up being kind of not so bad because the people that didn't like hedron initially, they all dumped their bags and distributed it to believers in hedron. Now, the origin address, which owns 90% plus of HEX, as we all know, was also given a shit ton of hedron for free, obviously. But he didn't just dump it, right? So he put up a one-sided liquidity wall on the HEX hedron pair, basically saying, hey, if anybody wants to dump their HEX for hedron, I'm going to absorb all that HEX. I'm going to be a giant sponge. So instead of having to hurt the HEX price when you sell HEX for hedron, I'm just going to change the ratio of the two. I'm just going to allow you to go direct from HEX to hedron, so you don't have to take the triangular route of HEX to US dollars and then back to hedron, because that's so inefficient. I mean, he essentially, what I think the origin address signaled was support for hedron by doing this. And so this wall has just been sitting here for a while, ever since we ate through it. But if we ever go back up to these upper levels,
these are lower.
I'm sorry, lower levels. He's going to be the one selling.
So this is
hedron for back.
So this is actually going to absorb the price of hedron back into HEX if it falls back down here, because this moves opposite of the USD. So this HEX hedron pair moves this way as hedron up, and HEX or hedron USD is this way is up. I know it's confusing. So here's so because these things are tied to ultimately the dollar, it's good to know the direction. So what I'm trying to say is, like, in the case of this setup, all of the price action that happened during the 30x run up on hedron happened in this block, and this is where the most HEX was traded and converted into hedron.
And now apparently none of it's.
And since we've been past this point, now new accumulators are showing up with fresh USDC, and they're pumping that into the HEX hedron ecosystem.
Yeah, so a noob might say, well, why is somebody just wasting all their new dollars on hedron? That's terrible for HEX. It's actually good because
they're tied by this liquidity.
This is proof right here that after this wall, this is fresh USD coming into hedron. But because let's go back, because this never changed, right? Because the HEX hedron pair never changed. If something is priced, if coin A is primarily priced in terms of coin B, and the price of coin B in US dollars goes up a shit ton, and literally nobody touches coin A.
Yes.
Coin A gets a free ride up along with it. So if you're pricing, for example, like NFTs are a good example. If my NFT is worth 13 Ethereum and everyone's pricing NFTs in Ethereum, but then Ethereum gets cut in half, well, my NFT gets fucked, because not only can I now sell it for literally half the US dollar value, but people are panicking about Ethereum. They're probably also going to panic sell on the way down for NFTs. Whereas this is the opposite case, because people are bullish on hedron. This creates secondhand, almost derivative bullishness.
Buying power. So HEX is coming into hedron, which is pumping HEX price by. It's pretty cool.
Without having to touch it, it's a really unprecedented bullish case. We've seen this happen in a negative scenario with NFTs, but we've never seen it happen. I've never seen it happen in a positive scenario.
So I guess the summation of this point is that hedron was the first mover in a derivatives fashion of what the HEX ecosystem could be, and it fought the trend of there was nothing else as important as HEX. in a way that could end up ultimately being like positive for price. And it catapulted us into a whole new direction where, you know, sacrifices and new coins and all these new things, and this new ecosystem is being built out. So, I mean, you have to give props to that. And with that, with the addition of these new forks are going to be, in their own ways, derivatives of the original chain, right?
It depends how you want to frame it. So everyone's taking, like, basically it's the wild, wild west. It's an unprecedented event in all of crypto. PulseChain was going to do it first. ETHW, I think it's a good thing that ETHW went first so that we can see what worked, what didn't work, what narratives are evolving. And you've got basically three camps of people. There's people that just think, oh, HEXW is bullshit. It'll never work because ETHW is bullshit. HEXW lives on it. It's all bullshit. They're just, naysayers. I'm skeptical to go extremist in any one way, right? And then there's people that say, well, because of the substrate that it lives on, it really depends on how good ETHW can do, and that'll depend on the success of HEXW. And then some people say, well, if HEX is HEX, then as an absolutist, it must be the same price parity, right? Yeah. I get scared saying anything in the absolute positive or absolute negative, right? So we're all just waiting to see. But go on with your point.
I think like the HEX price on the other chains is a reflection of the underlying token. So like with ETHW and ETH, proof of stake.
Turns out, yeah, both of our favorite dinosaurs are velociraptors. So
Let's go, dude, for
dude.
sure. Click, 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 click.
Yeah.
But dude, check this out. Like ETHW is going to have its own price, and HEX on that chain will be a reflection of the overall value of that network. Because what people forget is that HEX is an idea and it's tied to its underlying asset. So ETH and HEX are forever tied together. ETH is the utility, that's the oil, that's the gas that runs the network. HEX is the store of value, the long-term savings account of Ethereum. When people realize this, then you just apply that same mindset to the forks. Essentially, what you do when you fork Ethereum into proof of stake, you have left the original ETH proof of work chain and another ETH proof of work chain. You have two of them and working in tandem. At the evolution of it was the proof of stake chain. So like, I think we need to reframe our understandings of these things. Now, the reason why it's framed reverse, where proof of stake ETH is the number one ETH chain, is because that's where the money went. That's where the development went. That's where the energy went. And so that's totally understandable. And we should value that to that degree and that principle. But that being said, when you consider the long-term regulatory consequences of doing something with only a small amount of validators, that can easily be manipulated. So you're going to want to have fallbacks in a free market way.
Okay, yeah. So looking at ETHW as a fallback, a fail-safe in case POS doesn't work, that's fine. And the more hexes on the more chains, just the more interesting this whole game becomes.
100%.
I just think that it really comes down to socially enforced networks, like I talked about in my last stream. It's wherever the most people agree. It has nothing to do with which consensus mechanism is better or worse, because they both work as long as enough people give a shit that it continues to work. If you have enough people backing it up, it doesn't matter if your network gets 51% attacked or if it's a centralized proof of stake bullshit. Like people get so hung up on these arguments of which one is better. It's more like which one has more social consensus backing the imaginary reality, the imaginary fiction that we all tell ourselves. So which story is the better narrative, right? And right now, I like making money. I would love if we could follow along with what Richard Hart says is, I want to see HEX expensive on all chains. Yeah, sure. But let's be wary of taking anything that Richard Hart says as absolute truth and gospel, because at the same time, guess what? Richard also says, I don't like to beta test other people's shit, especially when there's brand new financial software that can lose millions of people's dollars. I don't know. And everyone's going to be like, the OGs are flooding my bags. No, I don't know any of the developers behind ETHW. I don't have as much confidence in that chain, but I would love it to succeed, because if it succeeds, we all win. We all get a copy, because if you were already staked, if you've been here for a while, congratulations, you already get a copy. But when it comes to the narrative moving forward, I'm choosing to continue with the HEX proof of stake narrative, the HEX on the ETH POS system. Because if you don't buy that one right now, if you're new and you're not buying HEX on ETH proof of stake, you're not getting the HEX on PulseChain, which I have infinitely more confidence about.
Yeah. So if it's not clear to you, the proof of stake HEX, basically the ETH, the real Ethereum, quote air quotes, real Ethereum.
Yeah, real.
That's
fake,
the one
whatever.
that's the one that's getting forked for PulseChain. So if you're looking for a copy, that's where you're going to go. If you want to let ETHW and ETHFair and these other forks kind of accrue value over time, and then just continue to be staked and stuff like that, that's like a good, just, sitting on the sidelines might be your best play in that case. Because those networks should accrue value on the basis that there's a ton of mining hardware that needed somewhere, a home basically. And, when a company the size of NVIDIA is losing billions of dollars a year on the loss of sales of GPUs because mining cards aren't being sold anymore, there might be outside factors that tries to drive price positively for an ETH fork or for some other use case for those GPUs. So you're going to want to be on the watch for that.
Yeah. UFO to go. I'm a proof of money. Yeah. I believe in proof of money. Proof of mad gains is what
Cheers
I believe
to you,
in.
brother.
And thank you, Crypto Gains Club. I see a lot of crybabies because people have the fallacy of absolutist thinking, being way too quick to judge after a few days of data that anything is absolutely this or absolutely that. Be very wary of people that say this definitely will do this or this could never possibly do that. Mm-hmm. Because history has a funny tendency of proving those kinds of egotistical people wrong. But let's take a look at the screen in front of you that I just pulled up. This is actually very interesting, and it goes along with ETHW. So if that's on your minds, well, it's on my mind too. So we've got a lot of new shitcoins, a lot of shitcoinery coming into ETHW lately. But for the first couple of days on ETHW, HEX dominated, and HEX is still continuing to dominate. You can see that it is the number 10 most highly traded coin, with a whopping $52,000 of liquidity. So again, nothing to write home about, nothing to, brag about really with 52K of liquidity.
It's having its coming of age moment.
It's almost like, it's like 16 candles. It's like HEX is fucking going to high school and he's trying to flirt with the senior. Yeah.
And whatever. The seniors starting to notice. That's the thing. like when something's only $52,000 like of liquidity, there's still easy money to be made for just even somebody tosses $100 in there or $1,000 in there. I
mean, HEX is a legitimate contender, basically. Is what I'm saying.
HEX is a transcendent idea that transcends any blockchain, and because it encapsulates time itself. Yeah. So it does it goes outside of the physical world that we live in a way, and make sure that your value is stored somewhere outside of the temporal realm itself. And I think that it gets a little esoteric for a lot of people.
But that gets lost on people that think it's just another staking coin. It doesn't.
It's not because
it's staking with consequences. It's staking where you literally have to act.
Positive and negative. It will hurt you and it will help you. So that's where the value is created in HEX. Like if you don't know how to use the contract properly or how to ladder properly or, account for gas fees properly, you're
the only people winning in HEX are the people that have understood the time value of money, that are making their long-term staking ladders on at minimum a yearly time scale. You can do biannually, whatever, long-term capital gains, whatever. But if you don't understand that your time is worth money and the only way to reach what I call financial escape velocity, basically you have to be making more money than they devalue it every year.
You want a daily payout, and you want that daily payout to beat inflation. So if you can reach that level with HEX, which by the way, with these prices you can, with a regular day job for a few months of accumulation, you will be able to outpace inflation when HEX is at $1. So it's just we can talk till we're blue in the face because we've been through a couple cycles, but ultimately it's up to us to go spread the good word and get people in, and so that they understand that this ultimately needs to be marketed as a yield bearing asset. Even when it's 3 cents, it still yields a lot of money for a guy with $1 million.
Yeah, man. I mean, do you realize like people are arguing over in the traditional CD world? You're lucky if you get 2% APY for locking up your money for 15 fucking years. That's offensive to me. I'm offended by that because you're literally saying, hey, screw yourself. I know you're
basically saying like, I'm dumb. I need you to fucking make my money slowly for me.
Yeah. And so crypto is self-sovereign.
Total opposite of that.
Puts the power in the hands of the people again. So if you're smart enough to be here now, congratulations. I really do believe you're all in the right place. Taking a look at a 14, 15-day-old chart is not something I can say, oh, this is for sure going to go to price parity or it's for sure not going to. But I love that it's getting more exposure, especially to the ETH proof of work chain. Yeah. One thing I can verifiably say is that in the HEX on ETHW Telegram chat, I have seen new people come into HEX via ETHW, which is weird, right? And like,
well, no, that's all I needed. That's the kind of shit that I trade on. So it's like when you get data from Crypto Coffee saying he's seeing new people entering the space through a fucking random fork, like that excites me because that's telling me that people are coming in from all the floodgates. Like there's just nothing left. There's no floodgates left. Like HEX is like such a big idea now. I'm so excited about it. we can't keep the price down forever. It's just not how markets work.
Yeah, and especially when you see people like Richard Hart saying, "Hey, I'm starting to tell my friends to get in," or "Hey, like Brent Morrissey out here,"
or telling DCC, "Oh yeah, we're bottomed." Like that's fucking crazy. So.
I mean, yeah, if you guys haven't heard, I mean, there's some rumors going around that somebody that might be kind of in the know. I mean, in order to be as in the know as Richard, all you got to do is look at the liquidity chart. Everything is public on chain. We're all as in the know as we allow ourselves to be. So don't think that, oh, this is just too high tech, too much numbers. Just go click around and think about what these numbers mean.
Or keep watching Crypto Coffee because he'll give you the updates.
Or smash the like and subscribe. And I'll tell you, it's all going to be okay. It's going to be okay, guys.
It will be. Like, we can guarantee that after a few cycles.
Yeah.
You just got to wait. You just don't sell and wait, and you're good.
Man, it's like the best non-financial advice is the most boring shit that nobody wants to hear. It's wait out the storm.
Yeah.
But there's some trouble coming in the near future, right?
There's some trouble coming potentially, in the larger markets, but it's an opportunity for crypto to show what it can do. It's a small market.
Let me ask you this. Do you think that because HEX is a trend setter and because it topped before Bitcoin, do you think it's also therefore bottomed before Bitcoin? I mean, I know HEX tends to do its own thing, and literally during the bull market, I can pull up a chart to prove this to you guys, which I think I have in previous videos. It was decorrelated from Bitcoin and from the overall crypto market. Yeah. And I hope that continues to happen. But because I assume that is continuing to happen, I do assume that it may have actually bottomed before the rest of the market, just because there is so much. The collective consciousness of people in HEX is looking beyond what the mainstream consciousness is currently experiencing. How do you feel about that?
I agree. I think we're getting so much yield daily that we're just in a totally different paradigm. And I think that we already understand where this is going.
Nice.
And I think that, when you look at the HEX versus ETH pair and the HEX versus Bitcoin pair, you can see that they're creating some good structure on the price chart, and that the downside risk is minimal and the upside is super quick to get there. So the ultimate risk is actually to the upside at this point in the price chart.
Yeah, I don't think people realize how quickly the price can turn around. It can whipsaw.
And this is why, is because if you pull up the uniswap.info, if you pull it up, the HEX, just the HEX liquidity, you can actually see we're still at the same levels we were at a year ago. We're literally sitting at that same general region. So the price is just as easy to push up now as it was last September.
It's crazy, man. Yeah, the liquidity, the overall
liquidity. And we're good. Check this shit out. If you click TVL.
Let me pull up another screen for everybody. Home tab, blah, blah, blah. You just swap it.
If you pull, it's a
real quick, easy question. Do we get a copy of our stakes on ETHW? Yes, you do, Vogel.
100%.
Yes, you do, buddy.
All your coins.
Anyway.
All your coins belong to us.
Yes.
TVL.
TVL.
Yeah, check this shit out. We're still above where we were on the 29th of last year, September. So we have more money in the pools, but we're chilling. We're just chilling, man.
If you look at TVL as the metric, it looks like we're already out of the worst of it. We're already.
Hey, man, you heard it here first. You heard it here first.
No promises.
This is an uptrend.
Don't get
from these data points here to this data point here. This is an uptrend. So if this bottoms here, that's the amount of dollars that we can trade daily inside of that pool. So as long as there's not enough people to pull liquidity anymore that have that incentive.
Yeah. Liquidity providers take most of the risk in cryptocurrency on a decentralized exchange, which is the new paradigm. So an automated market maker is a new type of order book. It's truly decentralized, but in order to take that kind of risk, you have to be resilient to what's called impermanent loss. And the people that are putting up this liquidity are not stupid. They put in more TVL over time when they experience environments of less fear.
Right. So we showed you guys earlier how USDC and HEX are tied together within that concentrated 3 cent to 4 cent range. That's basically saying that we have more strength at 3 to 4 cents now than we had way back a year ago at 20 cents. Because when we were trading with less liquidity a year ago, we were only at 10 to 20 cents. And now we're trading at 3 to 4 cents with more liquidity. So it's a stronger market at 3 to 4 cents.
Dude, wait, let's say September 17th, right? Back when we were at, last time we were at 12 million. What was the price back on September
17th of last year? We might need to use a different.
Yeah, this chart sucks. Hold on.
Hey, if there's any developers out there that wants to build us some cool tools, we would love to have unique tools. So
I love a good tool. Anyway, 9 September.
So
all-time highs.
So we were at all-time highs with the same amount of liquidity as we have here now at 3 cents if you go to TVL.
Yeah.
And so what this is telling us is that the market is stronger, bigger,
I knew
better.
that. Actually, I knew that. I can tell you for a fact, HEX topped at 51 cents on September 18th, 2021. We are almost exactly a year from it. And if you want to get all woo-woo bullshit, not calling it bullshit, but the Shemitah is over. So
yeah, I mean,
there is a debt cycle, a 7-year debt cycle that appears to be
over. We're literally on a marble that spins around a round sun. So, I mean, some things happen in cycles. So, I mean, just human behavior is not transcendent to that. Like, we're still part of the sun and moon cycle.
You don't even have to believe in cycles. Cycles are just objective facts.
It's just a fact. And you can, and if you look at 100 years of market data across many markets, you'll see that same pattern play out.
Yeah.
Patterns are humans' way of connecting with reality.
Interesting. Yeah, I never thought about it like that. Going back to the TVL going up, TVL has been going up while the price has been going down. What does that tell you? I think a lot of people, the smart money, so to speak, has been taking profit in the forms of transaction fees. Because as people want to exit, they were happy to take your money from you, collect your HEX, give you US dollars, and collect fees in the process. I think that's what happened when I look at the chart like this.
Yeah, I mean, what this shows me is last year when we started the bear market, there was huge sums of money coming in, but there was huge sums of money going out. So the market could not sustain such a high TVL. We had a hard time staying above 20 million. But when we finally broke 10 cents, that was like one of our largest market makers that basically said, I'm out.
Yeah.
Sold his entire position, bottomed us. And now we've just been building and accumulating, and people are now making money in this coin because it's trading in a tighter range over longer periods of time.
Yeah.
And that's why the TVL is starting to build up, is because there's money to be made here for market makers.
But clearly a lot of range traders have been the ones profiting in this extremely fucking boring 3 to 5 cent range. Like, let's be honest, it's a range trader's dream, but it's not going to last forever. And once it gets up past that 5 cent range, I think it skyrockets back to all-time highs. Like, if 5 cents is going to be really tough to get out of, but it's also going to be really tough to go below 3. You know what I mean?
Yeah, so I'm seeing like a pump from if you follow any fractal from 2020.
Someone please poke HEX with a stick. We're trying, guys. We're trying.
Hey, we're here. We're here live from the 51st floor. So we're here.
Or call it a test for weekends. It's a good point, Huddle Doug. I mean, it's always been, this whole bear market has been a test for weekends, and I think we've shaken out so many people. I can feel it. I can feel the negative emotion.
A data point that you might not know. So
go ahead.
So there is something that I was made aware of in May when I made the deep dive, which was that there was about 2 to 3 billion coins of HEX that were risky coins. And
what do you mean risky?
Those accounts had a tendency to dump had end stakes coming up that were going to dump.
Okay.
And I would say that just based off my intuition / some of my data that I've pulled in over the last like maybe 2 months, I think we've already gone through like 1.8 billion of those. So we're on the last third.
And you're keeping track of all this?
I'm not personally keeping track of this. Silver the Antidote is keeping track of this. And I'm just like basically watching the amount of volume that's being traded on a daily and a weekly basis.
So you're the messenger.
So I'm just trying to figure out roughly how much time based on previous fractals plus volumes, daily volumes, where we're at in the cycle. So I think we're on the last third of the bear market.
Yeah. I mean, I would love to think that, but this is also the time where I feel the most anger, the most despondency, and just the most, finger pointing, aggression, a lot of negative emotions, which is also a bullish symbol in a way. It's a bullish sign. So
RIP Crypto Nick.
No comment on that, but you can see the bodies floating by in the river. You can see who's capitulated, and you can see when people move on to shitcoin X, Y, or Z, that it's almost like the more shitcoinery we have, we should have like a shitcoinery index.
Yes.
Of like this many new coins are being created per month or per week. That's almost like a top signal, right?
Indeed. There was so much money made from new coins and airdrops. Like that was like one of the biggest money makers after we topped on Bitcoin. And the most money's been made from airdrops. So it's just been a liquidity pull from every angle.
Yeah, thank you, Pulse Dogecoin, for the free. I got like $1,200 out of that.
Dude, I sold the so fucking telling you right now, I sold the first top. I think it was like $3.12 or $2.89 or $4. Yeah, I sold $3.12. I was happy.
And then it went up to like $8, and everyone was all salty about it because they didn't. It's like, bro.
Jenkins was live hitting the sell button. Like, oh shit.
It's like, I'm sorry you didn't time the exact bottom and the exact top, bro.
But
Maybe.
bro, I can't throw shade at Pulse Dogecoin because it has made some cool moves.
I like
in the last
it. It's
week.
a very interesting coin. I'm not.
It's very limited in amount, and I mean, if you have the right market makers behind it, it can go up in price.
Yeah,
and that's all you need to know. Like,
absolutely. Hey, Fashion Coder, thanks for coming by, and yeah, smash the like as always, and congrats on your channel. You're doing great. Yes. Also, awesome seeing you in Vegas.
100%.
Oh, come on, we're not talking about. Jenkins was live.
Oh, shit. Hey, don't quote me on that. Don't quote. I don't know if that's an actual fact.
Joking.
I think he sold $5 though. I think he said that.
Okay, $5. That's fine.
It's good enough.
Yeah, t-shirts are my favorite. Me too, bro. Me too. We're about halfway in. Let's see. What are the other hot topics of the day? Bear market over, probably. ETHW, yay or nay. Hey, if you're a staker, my reaction is this: stay neutral, watch what happens, and you're gonna win either way. If you want to go in the wild west and start chasing HEXW, please go do it. But just know that you might be at risk of being someone else's exit liquidity.
Yeah, I mean, you got free coins over there. There's nothing saying you have to chase. You can let that price come to you, baby.
Yeah, there's nobody making you do one thing or another. And I think that people sometimes mistakenly look to people on YouTube for like unconscious permission to do something. You don't need my permission. Yeah. You don't need X's permission.
Perfect example. Today I was in my Discord chat. I had a message come through. It said like, bro, I thank you so much for the charts you've been doing. I made a bunch of money on a trade. And all I can do is say like, look, ultimately you make that decision. I can only tell you and navigate a trajectory. And so when it comes to these things, like it's never a good idea to get too excited or too underwhelmed by your performance on trading because that will hold you back.
If you want to make yourself really depressed, you can go through list after list of things that you missed out on. You missed out on Apple, Tesla, Google.
Oh,
you missed out on everything in the world.
Bitcoin.
If you want to focus on everything that you missed out on, you're gonna have a really bad time, bro, or dude or dudette, whoever's thinking that way.
And like I think a lot of people that are new to the space think that they've either missed out or if they come in now, like they don't have enough capital to like make something of it.
Yeah.
And I think that they could not be further from the truth. I think we're in those times where like it's for sure that crypto is going to take off. And shit's down 80 to 90%. It's that true coupon season, boys and girls.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, I think a lot of people think that the way out is, hey, make your own coin. If HEX can do a 10,000x, then why can't my little shit coin do a 10,000x? It's like, a lot of these people don't have a necessarily true novel idea. And it's easier for something to pump when you have the truth on your side. When you really invented something innovative, like trustless yield, replacing a $7 trillion market in a way that abstracts the data calculations needed to simulate compounding interest into something called a T-share. These are real innovations. If you're copying a copy of a coin and expecting that the only people that make money in crypto are holders and founders, it's also not even every founder. It's 1% of even the founders. So maybe that's even a bad Richard Hart quote. Sorry, Richard Hart, if you're watching, but the only people that make money in crypto are holders and founders of the right things. That includes the founders too. You can be a founder of something bad and maybe you make out with a little bit of cash, but you end up with more people wrecked than actually gained. So it's not just like an automatic formula, right? You can't just make a coin and just say, oh, well, I'm a founder now, so I'm going to make it in crypto. You might not even get your 10,000x. Your coin might get hacked before it goes to a 10x.
I always look at it as like, I look at like HEX and what it did. And I look at it being like the true first mover as a Bitcoin 2 solution, like a true Bitcoin 2.0 solution that could have only have ever happened one time and effectively in a way that it built a community around it and all these, first principles of on-chain trading. Uniswap came along and that was made popular as a function of HEX's tradability. And so like all these things really created like the perfect storm for HEX to happen. And it's not like that's going to continue to happen over and over. But what people need to understand is that had happened and that not having a foundation of a HEX staking ladder or some sort of HEX Ethereum pair in your portfolio is actually really you're missing the point, I guess.
Yeah, I think a lot of people too. So one of the mechanisms by which HEX tried to gain adoption was to essentially steal economic energy from Bitcoin by admitting that it was a better store of value. And if you have Bitcoin, you can free claim it. That was great. That works. It was actually underwhelming for what Richard was expecting. I think it only got about 3% of all claimable Bitcoin to claim, which is still a win because a lot of these people got free money overnight. Now, a lot of people
makes sense though.
A lot of people that are missing the point of why HEX is so great. They're trying to do the same strategy but with coin XYZ and saying, oh, well, if you maybe hold HEX or whatever, now you get entitled to this new coin. But you're really just disparaging. You're taking economic energy from a subset of what was trying to steal from Bitcoin in general. So like, yeah, we were all trying to steal from Bitcoin, but we don't like when people try to steal from us. Right.
Yeah, no, that's interesting that you frame it that way. I look at it more like, instead of it being necessarily like pulling economic energy from other blockchains, it's more of, you know, an effort to pull new fiat into, which can be infinitely printed into the ecosystem.
Well, the free claim was only one aspect of it, right? So like, obviously the greater scheme of things, like targeting
Targeting Bitcoiners did not work the way it was supposed to work.
Turns out Bitcoiners suck in marketing. Who would have thought?
It turns out they're fucking maxis, and they will dump it on a 4x for more Bitcoin, which instead of waiting for like 100x and for more Bitcoin, and which is what we did.
Yeah.
You know, we did that because we believed in something that could yield us something for the long term. You know, we didn't just believe that, like, I was a miner, I mined Bitcoin and I mined Ethereum, and that's a hard job to run all these computers at super high heats and blah, blah, blah.
Yeah, I mean, it's objectively better by a lot of metrics, but I mean, just imagine from an onboarding perspective, you have a room full of 100 people, and 5 of those people are Bitcoin maxis, and the other 95 people have no idea what crypto is. Wouldn't you rather go up to these 95 people and onboard them than try as hard as you can to yell and scream at these Bitcoin people to try to change their mind? Because once people are economically invested in something, they are biased towards wanting to change their mind. That goes for myself too. I'm not above that. I'm in HEX. I am now biased towards HEX. But I have to regularly reassess the reasons that I got into HEX in the first place to make sure that I'm still coming from a place of truth and a place of believing and selling myself on the actual product and concepts behind it. So I like the fact that we do get a lot of hate from time to time because it allows me to be introspective.
We got some people talking about PulsePod mooning on BNB right now.
Hey, good for them. Honestly, here's my thoughts on PulsePod. It's a degen diode, right? If you get degens from that would otherwise be gambling on other blockchains and you get them into PulseChain, well, I'd rather they be degenning on our chain because some of them might be able to be saved. But I don't recommend that anybody in this chat goes and plays gambling games. Like, that's just stupid, quite frankly. You have so much time, energy, your potential is infinite, and you're going to spend your time playing a gambling game. Don't do it. But what I like about PulsePod is it's almost like a Trojan horse for other blockchains to get into PulseChain via degen gambling.
Interesting. Because when ETH filled up, all of the gambling money went to BNB. So in this case, we're trying to capture value. Oh, for sure. We're trying to capture the value of that plus the utility of the increase, you know, on PulseChain with the increased transaction speeds, increased block size. Those things excite me so much. And like, we could wait a year for that. And that innovation is going to completely turn upside down on chain trading and on chain.
Dude, PulsePod's great. Freepulse.io is great. They're great because, like this guy, sports betting. Sports betting is a great use case. I mean, yeah, God forbid you actually get addicted to it or fall into that trap. But for the people already in the trap, it's a very large total addressable market. And what we care about is the number of dollars in that market that can go on a one-way, let's call it the degen diode, and go from a one-way ticket from BNB into PulseChain. Yeah.
It's going to be, dude, all these things are amazing to me. I'm so happy that there's so many people that are excited about true innovation in crypto. And it's hard to understand how Richard Hart ended up here, considering where he came from, you know, from being a Bitcoin maxi to creating eventually the solution, a solution or parallel to Ethereum that's going to shift the system forward. All these different add-ons like PulsePod and others, like all these things are going to be amazing, like new ways to interact with blockchains and give value to the blockchain. And it had never been able to be done before. Remember the original Ethereum narrative was world computer.
Oh yeah. World computer. Yeah, I remember that.
But PulseChain can do like a little bit better a version of world computer to the point where we could start applying these things. And I'll give you an interesting example without going too out in the weeds would be, if you could match in your favorite video game in a team game or in a singles game, and you could put up a bet before the match started, and then the blockchain could track the match score, and then there could be a payout at the end, you could basically solve the esports problem. So Theta's doing that. Others are trying to do this. These are the types of things that are going to push forward. You know, PulseChain's.
But that's just escrow contracts, literally.
Yes, it seems simple in theory, but nobody's applying these things directly to AAA titles, or they're not applying it to entertainment, media. But PulseChain's getting closer to actual real viability to apply the blockchain directly to transactions.
And this might sound even crazier, but with 3 to 4 second block time, PulseChain might actually be able to complete its ideal as being currency because Visa settles in 3 seconds, and in order to be a valid currency, you need settlement times on par or better than
we will have
Visa
that.
or MasterCard. But that's just more of a nice residual side effect of taking care of the stores.
Like not value. Necessary, but also nice to have.
Yeah,
for where we're going with PulseChain.
It's an emergent property. Almost.
Right. We can always go to XRP to trade, but if we need speed, but we can also bring the money back to PulseChain.
Right.
So interoperability is ultimately where we see the future of crypto going.
Yeah. Hey, let's talk about Zen because it's very interesting.
Super interesting.
You want to go first?
I mean, I can just say briefly what I understand about Zen is that it is a free minted coin, the first truly that I can think of free and fair launch crypto that's besides HEX, which that had the adoption amplifier, right? So that was free and fair launch. But this is to the point where the only fees that you're paying to mint is your gas fee to interact with the contract, which is basically first principles, truly free and fair launched.
It's hypothetically fair. Yes.
Hypothetically.
I mean, no, it's depending who you ask, right?
For as far as the inflation is concerned. Now, one of my first questions I asked Jack Levin when I met him at the pool party in Vegas was, well, how do you handle somebody creating a script that can go ahead and create a bunch of wallets that can mint? And he said the reply to that was that the gas fees would become too cumbersome, and they would have to delay out too long to make it meaningful over time.
Yeah.
So he has tried to think of ways to solve that problem from a gas fees perspective.
Yeah.
Right?
He also has this kind of innovative equation, which basically reduces the bonus for every number of people that claim. So if somebody does try to game the system early, they get less and less. I look at Zen like this. If anything, it's a good onboarding tool for Pulse because you can tell people, hey, you have all these free coins to claim, and all it costs you is 2 pennies to do so or whatever. So it's an interesting experiment as well. It's an interesting experiment that could potentially be looked at as an onboarding tool. However, I think it might give us a refresher into the reasoning that tragedy of the commons is a thing. So because people don't value things that they get for free as much as things that they pay for, I think for that reason, we are soon to see why people may or may not choose to continue to promote Zen or not. I mean, how many people that invest in Zen are going to have the same emergent property of the ecosystem that HEX has created in terms of the community? I'd love to see it. I'm friendly towards Zen. I love Jack Levin. I think he's a smart dude. His equation's very interesting, but I just don't know that people that get a bunch of free coins are going to be incentivized to continue to promote it. And also
look at the Bitcoin guys from the HEX contract in the early days, what they did with it. They're a perfect example of how you kind of see how these guys are going to do. You know what I mean?
The Bitcoin free claimers just wanted to dump it.
Right. Because they valued Bitcoin more. Now, here's the thing is, are people going to value Zen more or not? And, early on, no.
Early on, no. It's going to be very hard. It's going to be a lot of work on Jack, probably. Who's eligible for claiming Zen? Anybody, literally anybody.
You can literally open a wallet, go to the website and mint, and then you choose the time frame, right?
Yeah. And I think what Zen is it's an experiment in what a fair distribution means. So some people get angry at the origin address for having a bunch of coins. There's actually a method behind the madness.
You want to explain the origin address?
Yeah, the origin address, people that don't know, is basically in the early days when HEX was being distributed, a lot of coins ended up going to a centralized authority, or not authority, I would just say a centralized address. Basically, I look at the origin address as the number one cheerleader of HEX. He's the number one fan of HEX. He likes HEX so much that he ended up buying almost all of it in the early days in the distribution phase. This leaves very little left, but it also leaves one giant mega whale to always act in a benevolent interest towards a price positive HEX, future.
100%. So that OA, it tends to be looked at in the old days as like a negative, but what that OA has done for price since has been all positive, right? It's never sold a coin. And so I guess what was the original point of this about the OA?
I don't know. We've
moved so far beyond.
Someone wants to know, why is crypto copy so negative in new projects? Well, bro, if you think Zen is awesome, why don't you get on YouTube and
here's the thing is you can mint
it
it for free, so you can be negative or positive on it, and the price is going to do what it's going to do. Like there are going to be those who want to accumulate it because there's a delayed, there's going to be a delayed inflation. So like the longer you wait to mint, like when you say I'm claiming today, but I'm going to wait.
People need to stop framing ideas that contradict with theirs as negative, and if you're going to cry about it, then you go do something about it.
Well, just understand why. So you're understanding this as a negative comment. All Coffee is saying is that he's not for sure that positive price performance is an outcome for Zen early on. That's what he's saying ultimately from a totally neutral perspective.
Yeah.
And I mean, his justifications for such is that people don't value things they get for free.
And here's another reason why. I've been in crypto for 7 years. 99% of the shit that I've seen fails miserably. So if you're new here, hey, you buy into whatever coin you want. A lot of the lessons you need to learn in cryptocurrency need to be learned through experience. I can talk all I want all day long. You don't have to listen to me. That's the beauty of the real world. You can do whatever you want, act however you'd like to. And at the end of the day, the mistakes that you make will end up giving you experiential knowledge. Experiential knowledge is worth far more than the semantic knowledge that I'm giving you through this microphone right now.
100%. You won't understand a 20x until you've bought and experienced a 20x. Like nothing that we can say about that is going to make it real for you until you've actually been through that, right? Like it's like until you've experienced mass gains or mass losses, you just can't relate. You know, this is a whole new ecosystem that has so much potential, and people are so easy to be scared and flooded out of their bags. And those who've been in crypto for a cycle, we're just sitting here licking our chops, like super excited about the future. We're past the point where Bitcoin can fail. We're past the point where Ethereum can fail. Now we have 2 redundant side chains that are going to also support the original proof of stake chain. Yeah, that's all price positive in my eyes, and we're really bullish on crypto. And you know, even if we saw a couple years of shitty fucking market action in the legacy markets, yeah, you should be earning money every day, every week, every month, and you should be applying a percentage of that into investment assets.
Yeah. Oh, and by the way, I am going to claim my Zen, and I'm going to probably claim it with a shit ton of wallets. So
I'm looking to do at least 100 wallets. So because it's so simple.
Yeah. You know, I mean, it costs you almost nothing to do. It costs me almost nothing to do. Yeah. You know, gas fee times. I mean,
if you put $1,000 of gas into this contract or $2,000 of gas, it's the equivalent of purchasing it at that price. Yeah. So you're just looking for a positive outside.
Yeah. But then, you know, after I claim all my Zen, I'm not going to like change to Zen coffee. You know what I mean? Like I'm going to keep doing my HEX thing. But if people want to promote the fuck out of Zen, please go do it.
Yeah.
You go do it.
You know, Zen is like a team win for everybody. So like, you know, whoever wants to promote that can, you know, but ultimately price performance comes from economic control of the system. Yeah. And I think that's where we stand on that.
Yeah. Cool, man. We've been talking pretty fast here because we've only got about 8 minutes left. So if anybody's got some critical questions for Axis Alive, special guest, shout out Axis, go like and subscribe.
Appreciate you, bro. Thanks for bringing me on here.
My pleasure. Yeah, man. If you guys have some kind of really deep or introspective questions, maybe how liquidity works.
Yeah, markets, any price charts. I got my phone here. I can pull up price charts.
Somebody is saying HEX easy 10x from here. I actually am bullish on the price of Hedron, but only because I'm not going to say only. A couple reasons I'm bullish on Hedron. I know the Maximus guys are now partnering for the whole poly thing.
Yeah,
that's going to drive a lot of attention towards Hedron.
So my favorite devs, Alex from Hedron and Alex from Maxi, are working together, and it is so beautiful.
Is it Alex?
I'm pretty sure they're both Alex.
I thought it was Brian.
Or Stan? Brian? No, Stan is Gold Key.
Oh yeah. Okay.
Stan is Gold Key. Okay. Pretty sure I'm pretty sure we got the Alexes. Okay. But hey, guess what? You know what? Everybody, you know, these guys are freaking legends. They're going to be billionaires. Like, just accept it. Look at their beautiful faces. Yeah. Appreciate all their hard work. Like,
but here's the thing: they're inventing a new coin called Poly. To basically,
oh yeah, about the coin, by the way.
Basically, their new coin is, hey, let's instead of pooling together for a HEX stake, let's pool together to buy the fuck out of all these HSIs.
Yeah. So what they're doing is they're created. What is it called? Polyhedron.
Poly something.
It's just
Poly, I think.
Poly Maxi? No,
fuck just Poly.
Anyway, what this thing can do is it can accumulate HSI stakes from a pool. Everybody puts in money, then all those like long stakes are locking up HEX. The pool's acquiring all those stakes. And they're getting distributed over time. It's a beautiful system. I mean, I'm just starting to learn about that. Honestly, that's like I just learned about that yesterday.
But on top of this, let's call it liquidation day. November 13th is going to be a very important day in the world of Hedron. And let's call it liquidation day because, oh shit. let me not cancel my own stream. Okay. Well, liquidation day is basically the day that everybody that made their HSIs at the very beginning are now going to be hitting the liquidation market 90 days later. And there was an interesting point that I don't know if it was Crypto Sloth that brought this up, that there might be multiple liquidation days before momentum runs out, because a lot of the HSIs that are bought back in the liquidation market are going to be instantaneously cashed back in for more ICOSA and launched 90 days in the future again, leading to yet another liquidation day.
Yeah, so
and maybe
this is just a perpetual money-making machine.
Perpetual until the enthusiasm dies down eventually, or maybe it never does. Maybe the enthusiasm picks up.
Maybe
who knows? And yeah, by the way, sick background now. Thanks to Hollow
Hey,
Dog.
by the way, I'm looking at the Hedron price chart. We're looking good. My fucking parabola.
That's a little pumperoni right now on Hedron.
We had a fat fucking volume candle. I mean, we're talking about some serious volume coming in.
Yeah.
I can't give you an exact number, but dude,
you guys like that big green dildo?
Pretty excited about that. HEX saw a little sell-off, but it's like, dude, it's finding support right in our liquidity band that we showed you guys earlier. So we're good.
Oh, it is called Poly Maximus. Okay. I mean, the ticker symbol's Poly, but yeah. Shout out Dip Catcher.
So look into that. What up? Shout out to Dip Catcher and Gold Key, Hodl Dog, dude, all you guys, T-Bird, everybody in the chat. Appreciate you guys.
Yeah. Copy the piano player. Maybe.
Shout out to all the homies.
Maybe a little bit.
Hey, by the way, we got a ski trip coming up in January.
Do we?
It's super high stakes. Like, you have to be known to get in, but I just wanted to let everyone know.
Okay.
So you might get an invite.
If I'm lucky, maybe I'll be invited to the ski trip.
We'll see.
Is snowboarding allowed?
Snowboarding, skiing, yeah. I mean,
are you gonna make fun of me?
Snow skis, ski snows.
Okay.
Yeah, well, I'm not gonna make fun of you. Most of the people are boarders. I'm the only skier.
Okay, cool. We'll make fun of you.
Nice. Yeah, that's fine. I don't care. I can fucking outdo you. It's all good.
All right, bros.
Fucking shit you that.
Yeah, I mean, let's go shred the gnar.
Shred the gnar. Yeah, let's go.
After Polymath, what else? What else could they possibly do?
I'm sitting next to a polymath right now.
We're all a little bit of polymaths, We're something of a polymath. What else could they possibly do with HEX or Hedron? Well, we could keep promoting the fuck out of it for the rest of our lives.
I mean, it's not even a joke. It's not a trick. It's not nothing. It's like, look, we have a thing that produces yield.
This is interesting. I think people sometimes are mistaken that we need continual new tricks up our sleeves to keep
this thing prints money.
I also think that people sometimes we get caught up in our own ecosystem and we don't realize that 95% of the world doesn't know shit about crypto and 95% of the world doesn't even care about Hedron. I know people that I've onboarded into HEX that don't even want to claim their Hedron. And I'm telling them, I'm like, hey guys, you might be interested. There might be a lot of free money on the table.
That have left Pulse Doge and Hedron,
but they don't even care, and they still want to buy HEX. So like, why would somebody else want to buy, or what else could they possibly do with it? It's like for some people, trustless interest is enough, and I think for most of the world, getting yield in a world where the dollar is collapsing, where your monetary purchasing power is being debased every single day, I think a way to get yield trustlessly with a self-sovereign wallet that you own, that can go cross borders with only 12 words in your head, I think that's a lot more power that people are willing to get onboarded for. And I think we're going to see that in the next bull market. So it doesn't necessarily require consistent tricks up our sleeve. I think a lot of the tricks that we're talking about right now are mainly for the community. Like, I look at this like an incentive for people to not dump their HEX. It's like, hey guys, don't sell. Look at all this other stuff you can do with it. But when it comes to onboarding new people, I'm not starting with the concept of Hedron. That concept is like leaps and bounds more advanced than just the basic HEX concept. Hodl Dog says, love it. Thank you, Hodl Dog.
Shout out to Hodl Dog.
What an excellent chat. Thank you very much, SJ.
We'll see you on Wednesday.
Wink, wink. Good morning, HEX says, Gold Key is hungover or no? Hey, man.
He's probably celebrating a launch of some project. They launch a project every other week, and they all do like $1 billion.
They should both be celebrating taking 1 billion HEX off of the market and launching it in 10, 7, 3 in 1 year.
I admit that I underestimated the power of that team. I did call Gold Key a billionaire like last June at Vegas though. And it's tweeted out. There's proof. Future billionaire Gold Key. Okay. It's out there.
Fair enough. I mean, he doesn't own that 1 billion HEX, but.
Hey, no, I'm just saying, that. Well, what does that mean for price then? If I'm saying that a year ago,
Zen will be owned by India after minting.
That was before Maxi was an idea.
Yeah, I mean, if people think there's something
by India, yeah, whoever writes the first script is gold.
Honestly, I mean, somebody can automate minting. It's gas.
As long as they have ETH, they're good.
It's going to be a very interesting experiment.
Super interesting. Eventually, they run out of ETH though.
6 more days. 6 more days.
Yeah, Saturday, guys. Zen launch.
Saturday's the day for Zen. If you guys aren't familiar with it,
show up. Fucking
have fun.
Click some gas buttons.
Yeah, click a button or two and
take some Zen. Watch it run up 20x. Do what you will with it.
Mint some Zen and take a Zen. How about that?
Shit,
Shit,
I'm out.
All right, guys, let's drop the mic on that. We're at about an hour. Make sure you like and subscribe, not only to me, but to Access Live. Always a pleasure, my friend.
Thank you, man.
We'll see you later.
Appreciate you.
Bye, everybody.
See you guys.